There's a pod, a little tighter pod. Oh yeah, should be right close to him. That's gonna be right in that right line. Yep. There we go.
You are. Oh shit.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Just choked it. Finally got on one of these fish, got a bait in front of him, and it just absolutely chomped it. That was fun. Well, on that note, welcome back. We are out on a new body of water for me. We are out on Green Bay. I'm with my buddy, Warren Fisher. I'm gonna link all his stuff below. You're gonna see a lot of him this weekend, but we are out on Green Bay, and I'm gonna be kind of giving you a detailed outlook on what is Green Bay, kind of a Green Bay 101, because this is my first time out here, so I was doing a lot of research, and obviously having Warren out here helps a ton. But gonna give you a bunch of information. If you're interested in kind of coming out, checking out, see what Green Bay has to offer, that will give you a good head start. And number one thing that would make it very easy is just book Warren. He will make it very easy. We drove right out here, got on fish right away. You're seeing fish on side imaging. And yeah, we finally got that first one. These fish are moving a ton. Gonna try to get some live scope footage for you, but essentially just gonna go out, catch some fish, and be able to give you some information on Green Bay, what it is, how you can kind of do this on your own, or if you wanna swing on over and book a trip with Warren here, make it even that much easier. So we're gonna get going here. We'll get back at you in just a second. So essentially what we're doing right now is Warren's just kind of idling around as we're covering a bunch of water, and we're just waiting until we see groups of fish. If we start seeing consistent groups of fish, we'll show you some side imaging shots right here of kind of what you're looking for. And if you start seeing multiple groups of these, then you know you're in an area. Then if we see kind of a general area where they're at, then we'll flip down the live scope and we'll start trying to make some more targeted casts at these. If they're pretty spread out and scattered, you can kind of cast around anywhere. If they're in some smaller groups or a little bit smaller areas, we might use the live scope a little more to try to get on some of these fish. We're gonna drive around. Hopefully we'll be catching some fish here in no time. Ooh, more, ooh, good group. About 80, 90 feet kind of back. Maybe even go a little right of what I just did. They're kind of scattered all over there, so. They're moving though, holy cow. There's a bunch of them. God, one of us should get bit with all those fish. Yep. Right on cue. Right on cue. There's just so many fish scattered there. You're like, one of these has to bite. That's a little more plump. Ooh, whoa, feisty guy. One more, nice little plump one right there. Awesome. There's a pile of them over there. And we were working through them. You can still see them on the side imaging here too. They're just kind of fish scattered. These ones weren't in some of those tighter groups. These ones are a little more scattered, and we knew one of us was gonna get hit because there were so many fish there. That working through those fish, I'm still working that rattle bait. Warren's working a hair jig here and trying to kind of get them with a 1-2 punch, seeing if they're wanting a little more finesse or a little more reaction like that. But we'll give you some tips here in a second. We're gonna keep fishing these fish while we're on them. And yeah, hopefully we'll continue sticking some bigger ones. There's like right there, but I don't know if that could maybe be a rock too. Is there any rock? There's obviously a little bit. That would be the only other thing, because it's low or it's tight. You can see about 40 feet here. Probably not too far from it, to be honest. Yeah, there it is. Oh my God. There it is. Yep, you can see him. He bit it. That's awesome. Yeah.
Really finesse.
Yeah,
it was like barely moving it.
You can see it. I think there's a second one with it. You bet. Just got to a new spot here. First little group of fish. It was tight though. It was like 1, maybe 2. Warren was just working through that thing, and just right, but what, 40 feet was it from the boat?
Right in front of the boat.
You bet.
And basically right now we're in the spring phase. These fish are staging up shallow near river mouths all over Green Bay. So we're targeting them pretty shallow on these sand flats, 8 to 12 feet of water. And basically we're running around putting the miles on. using our side scan to target these fish. They can literally be anywhere on any given day on these flats. So sometimes it takes a little bit of patience to find them, and it takes patience to find the active ones as well. So that's kind of the game plan today.
Yeah, and I will say, if you have not followed Warren on Instagram or any of his social medias, I highly recommend it. Dude is putting out giant fish all the time, so go follow us. I'll put all of his information here below if you're looking at giving a phone call. Check out all his social media. He is always putting out just big fish. So we're gonna get rolling around, see if we can find some groups of fish. Yep. Had him at like 90 feet out there. It was like just a bomb cast at 90 feet. It's like, God, there's something out there. Get my hands out of the way. That's the thing about this chest camera, is it gets in the way a lot. My hands get in the way so much. There we go. Just slowly picking away, one here, one there. They are very scattered kind of here in this spot, and we're just slowly just continuing making casts. That one's back on the rip and wrap. Warren's had a couple bites on the hair jig again, and we're just slowly working, making very specific casts right to these fish, just working it right in front of their faces. And see, that one was a little bit further cast. That was like 90 feet out, as you saw, and being able to kind of keep that away from the boat, I think is a little bit helpful, being able to get some of these fish to bite so they're not getting a little spooky like that. But seeing some fish on the side imaging, we're seeing them just scattered out here, which is kind of a good area for kind of doing what we're doing. We're just kind of pitching, being able to just slowly move across a lot of these fish. Nice electronics. There you go.
That thing flat.
Thumped it?
Yeah.
Dumped it good. You bet. He's taking a good little run there, that's for sure.
That fish is still out there at 80 feet.
Is it?
Yeah.
He's just waiting for us. Oh, is that on the stinger too?
Yeah, barely.
That one was what? Hair jig again? That one was right on that stinger.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
I nipped at it.
oh, I love when they just get that belly like that, even those little bit smaller ones like that. Just a thick fish. Sweet.
Yeah, so one thing that's very crucial when you're finesse fishing these cold water walleyes is constantly monitoring your water temp. And a big body of water like this, the wind blows that warm, dirty water around very easily throughout the day, and as the wind shifts and whatnot, kind of following the wind, following the warm water, and just making sure you're constantly monitoring your warm water. And 1 or 2 degrees is something that's huge to these fish. Right now we got 35 degrees, and this morning I pulled up to a spot and saw 32 degrees when just a little bit prior it was like 37, and I knew right away that wasn't going to be good. So we had to kind of do some driving around, find where that warm water went, and lo and behold, there was fish there. So
yeah, and even one of the things we noticed when we would drive, we'd be on plane, just that, couple more feet that transducer is up higher, that we were seeing like 31.9, is that really cold water. So being able to kind of gauge that when you're sitting down, not necessarily when you're driving, you might not be able to tell quite as much if it's cooler out like it is today. But you can see it's 35.5 right here. And just, some of the spots we've been fishing were like 34.7. We've been seeing a few more fish here as we see a little bit warmer water temp. So that's definitely something to key in on that for sure. 80 feet left. There it is. That's that.
That was it?
No,
Oh.
That's not even that fish. Yeah, it's fun when you can see them like that. Ooh, right on the side. A little butterball though. Little chunker.
Didn't even mark him.
Yeah, that one doesn't even count. You didn't even see him on the live scope. There we go. That one out a little bit further. He was actually casting at a different fish, and then he hooks into that one. So again, the side imaging and the live scope is important. Like, you can clearly just fan cast these without your electronics. I mean, side imaging is almost a must, but live scope not necessarily with this. We'll get a release shot real quick. A lot of these fish we're catching are that, just nice quality fish. And the fun thing is obviously, as you can see from Warren's pictures and from you hear a lot of that from Green Bay, is you never know when those big ones are just gonna show up, and never know when that next cast is gonna be that 30-incher. It's just a cool area. And honestly, for like any Minnesotans like myself, there's not a lot of walleye fishing opportunities right now. So this is a great thing to come on do. Not only do you get in a boat, but two, you have a chance of catching a giant fish. And Warren is as dialed in as anyone out here. And I tell you what, it is just so fun being able to be back out in the boat after kind of a weird, short, just different ice season. Yep. I was just about to say, this guy's following me. A little better one. Not a giant, but I love seeing him just diving around like that.
Right.
He's dogging me a little better, at least, that's for sure. Ooh, he's just barely hooked, I think.
Great.
A little bit better.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, that's a thick fish. There we go. Biggest of the day so far for us. It's been a bit of a grind here, seeing some fish, and they are just not very active. We've been casting in front of a lot of ones here. Get that one back.
So a couple presentations that we're using today. We're using 1/2 ounce hair jigs and lipless crankbaits. These are kind of key baits when it's cold and finesse like this. Like I said, water's about 35 degrees, and you're gonna want a bait that you can fish pretty close to bottom, really finesse like, and move it really slowly. One of the most important parts of fishing baits like this is making sure that bait is consistently connecting to bottom, really allowing that fish that's following it to key in on it and decide if it wants to eat or not.
One of the things that Warren does a lot too, and he said pretty much anytime he's running hair, is he will have a stinger hook on there, and it's amazing on some of the bites today how many of them have been hooked on that stinger hook, them just short biting it. And today we've been contacting a lot of fish, and we've really been having to work through them. You can see it still just snowing like crazy, and it's definitely been a little more of like getting that thing right in front of their face. It's not like you can just fan cast this whole area and you're gonna be popping fish left and right. Right now it's definitely get that in front of their face. He's had to slow it down a little bit. I've still been working that rip and wrap with a little more reaction, but just doing little pops like that. You know, we're not doing these big sweeping like you would with maybe like a jig and wrap or something like that. It's just these little pops, just get a little bit of noise. Something to kind of attract these fish as they're kind of roaming over these big flats like this. And one thing you'll notice too, when me and Warren were talking, you know, over the last couple of years, he was saying how these fish in here move a lot. You know, there's nothing holding them. There's no rocks, there's no weeds. It's just these big sand flats, which makes them super easy to find on the electronics, but they are moving like crazy. And be efficient with finding them on electronics and then being able to cast to them quickly is definitely key, because there's sometimes just a short little window where you're contacting these fish, and then obviously they have to be in the right mood as well. But when he mentioned that, that is definitely shown true today, of these fish just moving around like crazy. Well, there you have it, a bunch of tips for kind of a Green Bay 101. As always, appreciate you watching. We'll see you next time.